Hey, can I? Oh, hey, folks, we're live. So much for asking questions before we go live, because now we're live, and I might just have to ask my questions soon.
Okay, but just give me this. Today is Tuesday, and you are rolling on the road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. And I know this thing has just been so flip flop because these two, our little guests, are just so busy and popular. We thought they were going to be on last week, so the title said that they're going to be on, but then we realized it was actually our 2 year anniversary on last Tuesday, and it was show number 251. So that's what we did. And, we had a show lined up for today, which was we were going to talk about accessibility and accommodations and invite the public in to weigh in. Is there a time where it's too much or maybe not enough? And maybe that could be a part of our conversation. But our conversation today is going to be about the intersectionality of disability in the Black and Brown community, and how disability advocates of Kent County, after lots and lots of work with many people, we are considered, I like the word, a test pilot. We're not test dummies.
Crash test dummies.
Yeah, because
Crash
sometimes
part.
but you know what? We crash the system of ableism. So, we could be um, ableist crash dummies or something like that, but we're not. We were lovingly called test pilots. I think it started about maybe 4 years ago, if I'm not mistaken,
Yes,
that we were
indeed.
that we were given that name. And during that time, it was, I don't know, it kind of paralleled with absolutely accessible Kent. So that was almost 6 years ago. So there were some conversations of which I am so honored to have been a part of from the beginning. And really, we can take this all the way back to maybe about 2014, 2015, when Disability Advocates of Kent County started the Dis Is. And it was talking about, how do we define disability? What does that look like? And as we looked around the table and those that were coming and talking about their stories, there were very few Black and Brown people. And so it was, how do we get them to the table? How do we let them know what it is that we do? We want to give a, wonderful, wonderful plug to Experience GR and Angela Nelson during her tenure there. She really represented well, from GR's standpoint, and this being, a place where people can come and making sure that everyone, especially those who are diversely able, can enjoy a good quality of life. And out of those conversations, so many things were just kind of bubbling around, and we can have some good ideas, but unless there's somebody who puts arms and legs to it, it's just the idea that's sitting around. And I'm so grateful because I'm a United States Navy veteran, and I'm excited because Derek is a veteran, and the VA actually has a program, and it is called peer support. And it's a multi-tiered type program, because I got into the program from the medical side because I had a massive stroke. I was in voc rehab because I am service connected veteran. And when I was no longer eligible to participate in the voc rehab program, they said, you know what, we have this other program and it's called independent living. It is 24 months, and we sit and we figure out, what does life now look like for you, that I had other disabilities that weren't as visible. But now that I have this visible disability, need to use a wheelchair in order to access my world, what does that look like for me? And they said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pair you with Disability Advocates of Kent County for the next 24 months. And they're going to help you to reintegrate into your community now that you have to access it differently. And so that's one type of peer support. And then there's the other type of, they have an internship program that offers peer support so that when people like me come to Disability Advocates of Kent County, I can see somebody that knows what I've experienced. You know, hey, on some level, they can say, well, first of all, we can connect because we're comrade buddies. We both have served in the military. So we connect there. And there are so many hidden scars that veterans carry that we can't often communicate with a civilian, and that we need to have someone who has that lived experience that can say, you know what, brother, you know what, sister, I know exactly, you know, what you were experiencing. You know, I experienced it on this level, and I love it. So, you know, Disability Advocates offers an array and layered services, you know, like people who have layered disabilities. You know, I have
like a parfait.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it's so good. And then you just kind of stir it up. And when you stir it up, you end up with something like this, you know?
Something better. Something better.
I think so. So, Derek, I want you first to talk about your experience on both ends, you know, coming into Disability Advocates. I guess we always say we come in first as a consumer on some level.
Yeah. For me, it was basically what you said. I was introduced to Chapter 31 through the VA. I had just been talking to my cousin, and he told me that I could go back through the VA, and there was available to me. There was programs available to me that could help me go from where I was to where I'd like to be. That ended up me going to the VA, and they put me in Chapter 31. Chapter 31 allowed me to go back to school, finish my degree. It was part psychology, part business. I had already started it, but I didn't finish it. Also, through Chapter 31, they allowed me to participate in an internship. And that internship happened to be with Disability Advocates. So I entered into an internship with Disability Advocates in 2018. And I started in January of 2018. The internship was supposed to last for 6 months, but because they liked me enough, they fought to keep me till August of that same year. But I will tell you, through that internship, I worked in a social worker aspect for Disability Advocates. I worked for veterans. I did all of the things that I do now, and we'll get to me in this stage of my life right now. But initially, I worked in the INR department. I worked in the OT department. I worked in the NIFTY department. I went out into the community with these other individuals that were my coworkers, and I learned what it meant to be an individual that worked at a company called Disability Advocates. Now, while doing that, in the veteran side of it, through Disability Advocates, I was able to go to Lansing with a fellow veteran, Carlos, who worked here at the time.
Yes.
And Carlos and I both went to Lansing, went through the program at the Lansing Community College, and earned our peer support specialist degrees. So I have that paperwork as a peer support specialist. It's one of the things I talked about today, Dr. Kimberly, with the governor, in that that's something we as a community should be investing in, is individuals that have like-minded experiences. For example, and I said this story a number of times, when I was in Chapter 31, PTSD is my disability. A couple other things, but that was the main one. And so my Bob Rossi, and you may know him, Dr. Kim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh
Bob
my gosh, I
Rocky.
had him years ago. I started
Yes.
out with him with Voc Rehab. Yes.
So he was my counselor at the time. I was going through some major stress at the time. He sent me to the VA and told them that I needed to get some counseling from a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And in this story I told today, it was I went to see the psychiatrist and I would go in there and I would spend an hour with this guy. It was literally like laying on the couch and him sitting there writing all these notes and asking
Yes.
me, how does that make you feel, Derek? What did that do for you? And I'm just in there like stagnant. I'm ready to throw up because this is like the most like boring, not useful to me. It didn't give me anything. I didn't gain anything. I will say I did gain this. I needed documentation from him to give to the VA to show that I actually had issues. So that's what I gained from him. But as soon as I left him, I went and spent another hour with the peer support. With the peer support, we were like minded because he went through what I went through. He understood my level of stress. He understood what it was like to be in the military. He understood all the things I were going through. And we had the beautiful time. I mean, I would leave there like grinning and laughing, uplifted, motivated, couldn't wait to get back the next time. But I still had to go through the psychiatrist to get to this individual. So in learning that, I really would believe and I would love to partake in being a peer support specialist, even though I am here to a certain extent because I still deal with vets. But I would think that that's something we need to, um, I think, not implode, but explode. We need to explode that. We
Yes.
need more of these individuals because the people that's out in the community, they don't necessarily allow themselves to open up to just any individual. But I can tell you, I believe that they will allow themselves to open up to a person that's like minded, like they have the same experiences, they understand what you truly are going through or have been through.
And I don't know even where to dive into this issue because it is that piece. I like to say, as a Center for Independent Living, that's our generic title, folks, that our secret sauce is peer support. And
Yes.
it's awesome. And again, we don't have a monopoly on it because the recipe's out there. As Derek mentioned, the recipe is folks who have similar life experiences and a listening ear. So there's that resonance, and then able to just say, hey, we're here together. There is no, and not to sound so cool, like the power dynamic of the psychologist sitting, asking all the questions. How are you feeling? And you're laying down. I mean, you are literally lower than
No,
that
yes,
person.
absolutely.
But peers are eye to eye, and it's no one's in charge other than
No.
people are in charge of their own lives.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's just awesome, and awesome that you're then back after your internship ended. And
Yeah, we'll talk about it. So after my internship, the program had ended, so I was back out in the world. So I went and obviously gained some other employment, but at the back of my mind, it wasn't what I really wanted to do. The experience that I had gained from disability advocates was something that I always wanted to do, but I never took the time to do it. So it was so ingrained in me that as I left disability advocates, I always thought about it. So I was working at a facility on 86th Street, Praxis Packaging. I'm just going to say it. And I was working there, and I was probably there about 8 months. And then one day I was like, I'm done. And I walked away. I walked out of that place. And it was probably A month and a half later, I received the email from Bill, who is our assistant executive director, or whatever his title is. And it asked me, it says, Derek, there's a couple of job opportunities we'd like for you to apply. And I applied to those two job opportunities. And in January of this past year, February actually, they brought me back to Disability Advocates.
Has it only been a year and a half that
It
you
has been. It has been.
It seems like you've been here for like ever.
Forever.
That's the beauty of Derek. But thank you. I appreciate that.
Beauty of Derek.
So I've been here since then. And a part of that new introduction to disability advocates was Dave talking to me about the Black and Brown community and how we needed to connect with them, and that we have, data that shows that the Black and Brown community is not participating in the programs that we have here at an alarming rate. Like actually 10% of the Black and Brown community, essentially the Black community, is participating in the program that disability advocates offer. So he asked me, he was like, Derek, I'd like for you to do something that they had done some years ago, which was a luncheon in the Black and Brown community. He asked me to take it on. And I was like really happy because my goal has always been to be out in the community and talk to people in the community. So this allowed me to do something that I do all the time, which is run my mouth. And I get paid for running my mouth. I get paid. I get paid for running my mouth. And
know what? Isn't that the best job, though?
It is the best job ever. And
that's what I get paid to do.
I get to.
We need to do a station identification. It is now 17 minutes after the hour, and we want to say thank you so much for tuning into Rolling on the Road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave. And we apologize for the confusion on the title of the show today. We actually do have Derek Collins and Michael Williams, who are the facilitators of the Black and Brown Community Partnership Luncheon. And so we are now getting into what it is and how they got to that point with Disability Advocates of Kent County. And we want to say thank you so much for tuning in and welcome Derek and Michael. So Michael is just telling us how Dave, he just loves to, give people his white card. He's got this white privilege card and he loves to just give it away. And it doesn't have a limit on it for as much responsibility as you're willing to take on and be accountable for that responsibility that you've taken on. He is willing to give it to you and say, hey, you know what? We are behind you. So we want to say thank you, Dave.
Well, again, I'm gonna do the quick historical note that Derek alluded to, because it was, we've always, had a goal and we've been okay on it. If you grade on a curve, we might have a C minus, maybe a C on a good day, for diversity and cultural competency. And, we have, I think for most of my time here as executive director, we've always had multiple.
How many years? 27?
22 as executive director, if you're counting.
22?
22.
22. For Disability Advocates.
For Disability Advocates as executive director. And so, but to say that I'm very proud today that 6 of 10 board members are people of color, and as I like to point out, it's intentionality. If people say, oh, we can't find good people, you're just not looking. So anyways, back to, we had a couple board members who happened to be African-American. They said, well, let's convene this, was actually a dinner, a little light supper, and bring together some African-American ministers, some first ladies, a lot of, at least it's not so much in the Catholic community, but maybe in the Protestant community, to have a church nurse, so there were some church nurses that came. So we had a great conversation, but unfortunately, for us, we got distracted, and that dinner kind of became a one and done, so we did this dinner and we got distracted, and we're still doing good stuff, but it's like, and then Dr. Kimberly, I made that big mistake of hiring Derek. And Derek says, "Okay, Dave, you say you want to do this. Do you really want to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Really, Dave?" Because it's not about like adding on. It truly is about how are we changing in that growth perspective, how we really include folks and to really be part of, our logo, which is intersectionality.
Absolutely.
So that's what got us to, the planning for March 18th, which was the first.
Yes. So after Dave asked me to take it on, he is absolutely correct. I said to him, this can't be a one and done. I don't want to participate in a one and done. If this is an ongoing thing, then it'll work. One of the other things that quickly I'll mention and then we'll get into is because we were moving from, and I usually say this, don't take it the wrong way if you live out here on 68th Street. I call it 70th Street. Sorry, but it is 70th.
The edge of the known universe.
Absolutely. And
that Webb telescope. In the Webb telescope picture, folks.
And so, having said that, when we were moving, I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, the one thing we need to include in this is that we can't have a BBCPL, which is a Black and Brown Community Partnership lunching, and then lose what we have with them, which is leaving the community. So what we tried to do very quickly in the first one was to open up a satellite office so that we are still in the community, despite the fact that we're on 68th Street. And we did that at the first event, which was on March 18th at United Methodist Center. And to this day, we started it, and we are now in a satellite partnership relationship with United Methodist Center, where we have someone that goes 2 hours a day there, I should say. They're there one day out of the week for 2 hours, and the community can go to them and now get accessible things that they could still get from 68th Street, but they don't have to traverse all the way out here to get that same equipment and or information and or sit down with someone that has the capability to help them with Social Security income, benefits planning. We have OT that's available to come do assessments. All of this stuff now is in the community. We haven't left the community to the point that we didn't keep a relationship with the community. So what we did again, we did the first one in March, and then Michael and I did another one this past June. And that was again to bring the Black and Brown community. And when we say Black and Brown community, we're talking about Asians, we're talking about Hispanics, we're talking about American Indians, we're talking Africans, we're talking African Americans, we're talking the total inclusion of all people of color. And we have been doing this. This is the second one. We have another one coming up in September on the 28th that we're going to do again. These are continuations to do what? To allow the Black and the Brown community to partner with us in such a way that we influence not what they're doing, but influence how they go out in the community and help that community understand that we are available to them. We're here to help them. We want to know what they need. We don't want to dictate what we should do for them. We want them to talk to us and let us know how we can support them and help them. And this is a way that Dave has allowed Michael and myself, I should say, to get out in the community and generate all of this press to do one thing, and that's support the people in the Black and Brown community. And that's what this whole thing is about. And it's a continuation. We have the United Methodist Center as a satellite office, and we're talking to other agencies to do the same thing, hopefully in the Hispanic community and other communities, so that the individuals in the community have a place to go.
Well, and the challenge is not only in the Black and brown community, in the cities, so the metro area,
Yep.
that this model of being present in the community then will also for like northern Kent County,
Absolutely.
eastern Kent County, so the rural parts of the county, this idea of making sure that we truly live up to our name, which is Disability Advocates of Kent County, though intentionally beginning with, as Derek mentioned, our statistics showed us that we had some outreach to do and some relationships to build, and making sure back to, that cultural competency is way more than just, I don't even want to say something silly. It's way more than just saying, oh, but I took a class at the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, it is definitely more than that. And this conversation has been so ongoing, and I appreciate that we know that there's more than one way to get anywhere. And so I think the piece that 100 Shades did was like, you know what, we need to go live. And it was something that we had already been doing, and just to expand it. And so we started. I mean, we really knew that once COVID hit and there was a lockdown, that it was going to shut down any way that people can even begin to connect in. So I think that, doing the rolling on the road, we've been doing it virtually, and we're excited that, we have intermittently had opportunities to actually be on the road. But this was another way to pull in the Black and brown community, because as we traveled virtually, I mean, we literally went around the United States, literally. I mean, we started here in Michigan, and we visited all of the centers for independent living, which, there are 14 of them in Michigan. And Wayne County actually has the largest population of Black and brown that they were truly, engaged with. And so for them to be able to come on to Rolling on the Road, talk with Dave and I, and got an opportunity to even get an intern out of the Wayne County area to work with us for, about 6 months, so that they could find out everything that we're doing here on the west side of the state and be able to implement some things there. The relationship that we built with Lori Hill. And so then as we went around the state of Michigan, we said, guess what? We need to go to other places. So we went to California. We went over to Maryland. We've been down in Georgia. We have been over in more of the Midwest into Wisconsin, and allowing people to talk about, what their centers for independent living are doing and how they can engage their Black and brown community. I mean, there were many, especially we spent a lot of time, probably most of last year, at least 2 shows a week down in Georgia. And we found out that there were so many people who never even knew that a center for independent living existed for them and things that they could have really benefited from. And so I think it really bumped things up for Disability Advocates of Kent County. People were like, "Oh my gosh, can we give? I mean, what do we do? Can we come with you guys?" And I mean, we've even got friends, in Kenya and in the Netherlands that have really tapped in to what it is that we do. And I just think that it's awesome that we have become the Mecca, the center, and actually the model of how it really needs to look. Because as we kind of laughed before we came on, the fact that you're chocolate with your vanilla shirt and he's vanilla with his chocolate shirt on, and of course, me and Michael gonna show up in our purple. We just got to be different, But Michael, what do you think is your piece that you bring to this?
So for myself, at my heart, I'm a community organizer. It's really exciting for me to get to work within the disability community, dealing with my own history of mental health and addiction issues. At the same time, this is something we face in every movement. How do we become more inclusive and more well representing of, the communities we serve and, do the greater good? So for me, this is not just about letting the Black and Brown community know, hey, we exist, we offer these services, and you aren't using them. This is about creating spaces where we can talk about all the issues, whether it's housing, healthcare, transportation, employment. Let's talk about what each of our organizations and agencies, both from a disability perspective and beyond, are doing, and make sure everybody knows what everybody's doing because we're sharing it in a public space. And then, by continuing this, really building those support systems. So when some issue or does come up that's very important for us, for them, we're all at bat together for each other. It's about sharing power and, building strength by doing that. We all have different things to bring to the table, different sections of the community. And so for me, I I help Derek do a lot of the planning, but my role once I'm there is more just to facilitate conversation. Throw some conversation starters out there, and then pull some big. Okay, what can we do with this? All of that, so we have some plans moving forward between the lunches.
One thing I want to make an observation is the intentionality of all of this, because Dave and I, we have said many times in this last 2 years, in 252 shows, that we are leading by example, because I believe that when you make decisions based off the most excluded, then you have included everyone. And I check a lot of the boxes. I'm Black, I'm female, I'm disabled, I'm a veteran, I'm an entrepreneur, mother, grandmother, wife. And so just by mere definition, that makes me disenfranchised. And so how someone would come along, with their card and say, hey, you know what, I'm not even just going to share, but I'm just going to give it to you. I'm going to open up the door. I'm going to hold the door open, and I'm, kind of like push me through, literally. Because I was in a manual wheelchair at the time. So he literally pushed me through the door. And to see the intentionality that you have an African-American male and, an Anglo male coming together, going into these communities together in an equal partnership. And even if we look at stature, Derek, you're tall. You're not as tall. Okay. But
Sure you can say
just stay with me, okay? Because the optics of it all, it's not like you're this big, huge white man with a smaller Black man. Okay, now I'm going to help you guys, do this in this Black and brown luncheon. Yeah, okay. And I think that's been part of it, that we don't necessarily see the optics when we're putting something like this together. You made mention of it earlier by saying, here's this white man who is sitting up, and I love the way you told the story, because you're like, he has on, these $300 loafers, and that his Benz was parked by the door because you passed it as you came into the facility, and you're lying down, and he's in an upward position talking to you and almost placating you, being very condescending. So how do you feel today? Well, don't you see where I just tried to slip my wrist? Or, you see on that chart where, I had a gun in my mouth when they came and got me, You know what I mean? Or they found me, butt naked on Division, screaming that Jehovah's Return. And so, does it help me to have someone who is postured above me and is everything about them and their posture, from what they're wearing to what you walk past their car because they got a personalized license plate on it, so I know that it was yours. And then I have to be in this supine position beneath you and have this conversation. And so, to change the optics, to say we have a Black man of great stature who is standing before you and is telling you, I'm here to give you a hand up. And I received this card from him, and now I'm going to share the card with you.
Yeah, and let me say this about Michael. We have an amazing relationship. So
I know I like to see y'all together. The band.
Seriously, I couldn't do this without him. Honestly, he is my sidekick. I'm just going to say this: I'm his sidekick, but together, he is a very intelligent individual.
Oh, absolutely.
And so he helps me maintain at a level that I am grateful for, Michael. And so when we go out into the community, you know what? I didn't even think of what you just said about optics, but we are ebony and ivory.
No,
everybody got.
He's got the Jag, and I drive the rust bucket.
But he's totally that individual that once I start and we talk about essentially what this program means, then he takes over and like he says, go ahead, Dave.
Well, no, I just want to slightly edit where my invitation to Dr. Kimberly and my pushing her through the door wasn't anything special.
Right.
Because again, I'm not special for seeing this, but I see ability in a lot of people. And I have held the door and pushed a lot of people through the door. What's special is people who pick up the invitation and say, okay, I'm in. And then the challenge back to say, all right, we said we were going to welcome this person and this person's now here. And so that's what's special, is how Dr. Kimberly has picked up that invitation, how you, Derek, have picked up that invitation. You, Michael, who've been with us at Disability Advocates, and you were doing community organizing before you got here. But again, that invitation, we've invited people, I as executive director, we as Disability Advocates. Yeah. But again, it's the three of you, and especially the two of you today, focused on, you picked up that invitation. And then now it's not special that you've been inviting the Black and brown community to the table. It's special that they've been saying yes.
Yes.
And that then coming to the table, and then we're all like, all right, now what does this really mean? And how do we really work together to change systems? Because I've got this scary article open on my computer that talks about how hard it is to change the way people think about systems, and how the average poor Black woman thinks that like the true barrier is not the systemic racism of our world, but that drug addiction and people are too lazy. It's like, because that's what we're told over and over again. And so, again, that's what the invitation that you all have put out to the communities, help us redefine some more depth to community. So again, whatever doors I've opened, whatever, it's about responding to that invitation. Heidi Zeller is in the house. We say hello to her. Yeah. Another person who's responded.
Yes, that she reaches out. We've had her on the show. I think it was probably one of our higher numbered shows when Heidi came on talking about the LGBT community and, where does that fit in? And definitely it intersects with disability.
It does.
It greatly intersects. So I love how we have been able to roll around and give people invitations and they accept them, receive them with great responsibility, and they personalize it and they take such ownership. And that's the piece that I just really, really love is how, Michael, you've taken ownership. I mean, the very first one at Methodist Community House. Wow. Just the interaction. When I tell you that the synergy in the room was just off the
For
chain.
me, it's, being in a situation where I'm one of the few white guys in the room, which
You the
again,
minority.
the optics of that is amazing, and it's powerful for myself, who usually is experiencing that privilege, to be in that position. That's really powerful. And for me, doing as much work and putting in as much of my energy to make sure that this is healthy for everybody and beneficial for everybody and meaningful, and that I have that intentionality, and it's not just the optics that are associated, that I'm actually learning something about that, something that I've got no idea about, so I don't have those experiences. So to be in that opportunity to learn, taking, the facilitating role, just so I can be at the center of that discussion and, have people talking to me in the room is, I'm learning so much. So I see it as a growth opportunity, a way to learn to do better business. But, you brought up peer support groups, and we're talking about, building better community. And I think that really is at the heart of whatever you're going through. If you're Black or brown community, you need Black and brown community around you to understand what you go through as a person. If you had grew up with one parent or experienced divorce or something like that, you need a support group. Addiction, veteran status, it doesn't matter. Peer support is where real growth and community thrive. And I just really think that's where we need to focus, and so I love disability advocates, because that is the focus.
I like this. Using our voices is vital to all healing. We do have some comments. We're on so many platforms. I'm trying to catch all of the comments. And Bertaji said, "This is awesome. Everyone is important," and she appreciates the support system. Yay, my name twin. Okay, so we got Heidi DeVries. Oh my Jesus.
No.
She's behaving today.
Okay, that's
"That's
good.
your
I
wonderful
don't believe
kind of
that.
different, and you're awesome kind of different. You rock." Thank you. I appreciate you today, Heidi. Yes. We are now, can you believe it? It is 4:43.
I think we're going to need to do a part 2 after the ADA celebration.
And I think that we will. And so I do want you guys to put a pin in this. And I'll make this announcement that on next Tuesday, instead of going live at 4 o'clock, we are going to go live at 5 p.m. And we're going to be on from 5 to 7 on all 8 of our platforms. And we will be live from the ADA celebration, which will be held at the Kentwood District Library. And it is located on Breton. You can't miss this. You can't miss
Right next to Kentwood City Hall, Breton Southeast.
Like
Come
4950 South Breton.
Which number?
4950.
4950.
So we will be there live, and we're going to have somebody walking around so that you can see it. If you're not able to physically attend, you'll be able to tune in on one of our 8 platforms, and hopefully Nathan, are you listening? Okay, I'm doing this to you again. Nathan hopefully can grab it real quick and pop it over to Disability Advocates of Kent County's page on Facebook so that you can have it there. And hopefully he can maybe put it on you guys' YouTube channel. But definitely, you'll find us on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube, and you'll be able to watch the ADA celebration, which is going to be next Tuesday. So again, we are going to go live starting at 5 instead of at 4, and it'll be for 2 hours. So we'll be doing interviews and people telling what the ADA celebration means to you, because this is number 32. Wow. And maybe we need to think about what has really changed in 32 years. Has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Or has it stayed the same? You know how they ask you at the doctor, so can you find on the chart based on the face? But we definitely want to put a pin in it, and we want Michael and Derek to please come back the following Tuesday. And we're going to finish this conversation because I think there is more that needs to be unpacked. I mean, I think we only hit the tip of the iceberg.
Barely. And as you mark your calendar for next Tuesday, 5 o'clock, Kentwood branch of the Kent District Library. So that's July 19th. As Michael said, it's September. What? September is the next community?
September 28th.
September 28th, Black and Brown Community Partner Lunch. More information. Their email addresses, you go to our website that's been underneath my smiling face during the show. Reach out for more information. Always room. Always.
And 616-949-1100 and 911 is in the middle. No, we can't take an emergency, but it is important to us that you reach out and you call. And we don't know who this anonymous Facebook user is, but we want to say thank you so much for tuning in, because you are new. And so we're excited when we always have new people that find out about us and are watching. And we thank you if you are watching us on the replay. Wow. Thank you. Please go to Rolling on the Road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave on Facebook, or Rolling on the Road with Dr. Kimberly and Dave on YouTube, or 100 Shades of Diversibility on YouTube. And please catch up on some of our past shows. We've had some great guests, but we are putting a pin, just a little comma, a semicolon, and we're going to resume this conversation after we come back from the ADA celebration. So I want to say thank you, but we're coming back. All right. So until then, guys, please stay safe. And guess what? There's still space to get vaccinated. People are still getting COVID. Not as many people are dying. Thank you, Jesus. But people are still getting sick. I'm telling you, I was just in the hospital on last week with my husband, and they're tired, to say the least. And you can feel it in the hospital, and they are so short-staffed. So please get your vaccination. If you haven't gone back for your booster, please go get your booster. And we want to say, hey, we missed the milkman's representative on today, missed the commentary, not sure where Amber was today, but we did miss her commentary. So thank you so much. And we will see you at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time live at the ADA celebration. Until then, be well.
Bye-bye.